So here we are in Warriors of God. The initiative roll was quite low this turn. French won it with a 3, but the English only rolled a 2, -1 for not having a king at all. So that only gave 3 initiative points to the French, 2 to the English. Let's see what happened. The French opened things up by marching into Flanders. They want to take that out, but it may be hard. I think Jean de Montfort is going to probably take that as a siege. You know, there's some chance of it falling, but not tremendous. Then the English returned by attacking into Ireland, try to protect their Scottish holdings. French chose to move into Normandy. Again, now this one's less likely to be a siege because Bertrand's pretty good with his, no matter what, he's pretty good. So it's probably a problem there. Then the English shifted for their last move into here. They didn't want to give this up. I'm not sure quite well because Jean could slide in and take it freely, which probably would have been a good consideration anyhow. He probably could have defeated him. Instead, the French moved into Picardy, which I think is a mistake. Sometimes, though, I don't notice my opportunities, and this was definitely one of those cases. The French could certainly have used that, and to tell you the truth, now that I'm able to think and talk it over, since nothing else has happened since then, I'm going into England itself. I forgot the French have the last move. Alright, so let me take care of those battles. I'll come back and let you know what happened. The English were largely able to bottle up into sieges, and even some of those 50-50s, like in England and Normandy, well, they ended up driving away their attacker, which actually Normandy was a little worse than 50-50, but they thought it was the best they could do. They won their battle in Wales. However, the French managed to win over in Ireland, positioning them for an invasion of Scotland. Still, the English didn't lose much, if anything. Actually, they lost nothing yet. So in terms of victory points, they're going to still be doing quite well. I'll follow through and see what the turn creates. Well, a lot of serious deaths here. Both the French kings died. We see a lot of pieces on the board. This is after troops have sort of been allocated, not entirely. Jean de Barry showed up here. Louis de Bourbon down here to try to start gaining points for the French in their backfields. He's not going to be very valuable for anything else. He's not great at that either. These I'm stuck with, so they're going to go away, etc. And basically, we're seeing a situation that I think is France's doom. Yeah, England lost some key people too, like John of Gaunt, but now they've got Ralph Neville, who's pretty good, and they've got Richard II up here, although they had to give up some troops. They've got only really one threat on their mind, which is the 2 Scottish lords. We got Robert and his son, who now revolted in Scotland itself. But France, they've lost their hold here in Brittany. That was a major block to the English down here with Grayley, who's, you know, not tremendously potent, but on his own he can do some definite damage there. Really, the only thing that the French have to hope for is de Guesclin, who doesn't have a lot of troops because he wasn't able to capture Anjou after having been forced to withdraw. Well, he could have withdrawn to a number of places. He wanted to withdraw there so that they could get some of that additional space that they really need. When we count up the points, we know that the French are going to fall behind at least as much as they did previously. They got a dead leader, Owen Gwyndwr. Let's see what we end up with on score here. Might as well. Alright, so first thing, the 2 pieces of information I need are on different sides of the sheet. Now there's a second sheet over here, but I don't really like coping with 2 sheets any better, really. Nobody controls the opposite side's country. So let's look at 3-point areas. Well, the English control 2 more than the French do. So that's their 4 points again. And 1 or 2 point areas. French have 1. It's tied. English have 1. It's tied. English have 1. Same position as last time. Leaders killed in battle. We got a point for this one. And we're seeing the English just racking their way up. No leaders captured. So that's the end of this turn. On to turn 5. And I'd say right now the advantage is in the English hands. Not so much because they have better leaders. They don't really. I would say a little. They have about equal commitment in terms of good leaders, but they have more leaders, which means on a high initiative they're going to be able to gain more, and they don't really have to do much. They're gaining what, 2, 4, 5 points a turn, just, you know, as long as France isn't going to be cutting into that, they're in pretty good shape. Now that's what this is kind of about, is hey, if I get a point here, that cuts into it a little bit, but they really do have to take territories from the English, or get lucky in something like Burgundy. Alright, well, we'll see what happens. So the French got initiative again. The total roll ended up tying at 2, so there were 4 initiatives for them, 3 for the English. They didn't use their last one. Let's see why and what happened. Well, the French opened things up by moving de Gascogne down into Poitou. The English reaction, if it can be called that, was to march into the Ile-de-France. And from there, what else will we see? French moved de Gascogne down to Aquitaine. The English marched into Champagne, and then I think the French moved into Wales. The English took their choice to defend Wales. They could have moved into Wales, Scotland, or moved into Brittany to try to solidify their hold on the continent and maybe connect to Aquitaine navally, which would be a nice setup, actually. But they're afraid of what's going on in the Isles themselves. Alright, well, we have a number of fights to take place. Some of them may end up being sieges. In particular, I think the Ile-de-France is going to be one. Aquitaine may end up being one. We'll see. Well, the French are a little bit resurgent here. They managed to beat off the English forces here in Champagne. No jokes there. Defeated and killed Jean de Grailly down here in Aquitaine, which will at least take that away from the English. And the siege of Ile-de-France was a failure. Now this is kind of interesting because Charles of Navarre and Ralph of Neville have moved down and can try to conquer areas deeper in France. They did lose in Wales and got driven back. That's no big shock. But here's the problem. Other than the English gain all along, the English have the non-initiative. That means they're going to get to pick, and this is not too shocking to tell you the truth, Philip I of Burgundy, who's the better of the neutral leaders, who's going to be positioning them there and conceivably giving them quite a bit of wealth for their struggle. I think this game is just heading further and further in the English direction. The French might gain a little bit here this turn, but it's not clear that the tide has really swung against the English yet. Alright, well, I'll do the control and administrative stuff, come back. Well, this is, again, one of those turns where a lot of people died. De Gascogne down here. We had Anjou here. Just these huge vacuums that appear where their troops are sitting. A little iffy about how likely those troops are to change sides, but the fact of the matter is the English have the option to take whatever they like. Now, their options are kind of interesting. Hey, we can start Philip of Burgundy in Burgundy, which is appealing, but why don't I start him in Champagne instead? Get those extra troops. I'd only get 2 troops in Burgundy. And then I can move into Burgundy, expend an action there. Well, that means the French are going to get Robert of Mortimer, and here's his problem. He can start anywhere pretty much I like. I can start him in Wales and increase the pressure on the English north, or I could start him somewhere kind of interesting like Aquitaine, where he could get a couple of troops for free. I can't start him in Orleans, but I am going to get a leader who I can start there if the English don't. I could start him up in Luxembourg. It's hard to tell. Here's the problem. Oh, the English kind of screwed up, actually. They did not want to leave this here. They wanted this here. And they have enough troops. Okay, so yeah, I just forgot about that piece, but that's okay. So the choices are kind of open there. I think it makes more sense, to tell you the truth, to start him off somewhere like Aquitaine. Except for, here's the problem. If I start him in Aquitaine, the English could choose to start Mowbray in Aquitaine and steal those troops. That's the disadvantage of being the initiative player. No matter what you choose, it's bad, you know? There are no good choices. And that's painful. I don't know. You know, this gets me a troop, but so does this. I'll throw him up in Wales. He at least gets an infantry there. And continue my pressure up there. But now that means Aquitaine's not that important to the English now. And speaking of which, it is the English turn. We're going to be putting York in there. He's forced to take a strength point, and then he takes these 2 archers as well. Well, he will. It's not quite yet. And then Mowbray. What do I want to do with Mowbray? Well, I've got Philip here grabbing those troops already. So now it's kind of, do I want Mowbray up in Picardy? Well, the French can't take Picardy, but they can take Aquitaine. I'm going to put Mowbray down there to help grab that. And that brings, yeah, actually maybe it makes more sense to grab this. Yeah, I'll grab Orleans, where I'm going to get the forces first. Now here's the thing. I can bring Louis of Orleans into Orleans. I can also bring Charles, and I'm already set up for this, to grab his home troops, and he'll do that. He's a really, really crappy king, as he should be, but at least he's a king, and that'll give the French a king marker as well as the English now again. And let's see, what do I want to do with my last one? Do I want to put Louis in here where he's going, he'd have a couple of troops there, which is as good as he has anywhere else. What's his chance of taking this? I don't know. It's just so risky any way you look at it. I need to connect my stuff up. Some chances have to be made. I'll be assigning the extra troops and come back to show you how many points were accumulated this turn. So the English continue their movement up to 21 points. That's, what, a gain of maybe 3. You know, it's slowing down, there's no question. The French are beginning to position themselves in a little bit stronger location, but they still don't have a connectivity issue situation. Whereas the English are sweeping, you know, all of this across. Presumably they're going to get Burgundy. They could have had a shot at Aquitaine, but that might have made them be cut. But they're definitely in a stronger position. Their leadership seems at least as good again, and they have more leaders. So I just, you know, every game it comes down to who ends up losing the initiative more times. That's the person who's going to win. You know, you can screw up, but beyond that, really, it's that one die roll each turn. That's the thing that decides the game. And if you win that, if you lose that more times than you win it, you're going to end up ahead. The only question is, will you lose it enough times that you can shoot yourself up to 30, or do you have to play the whole game to see who loses initiative enough times? it's a pity because I kind of really like the way the game plays, etc., and the feel, but it just does not feel like there's enough control over what you can do.